I'm looking forward to having a whole number Panda review with you tonight, Mike, for movies. I'm sure everyone watching is also hoping for a whole number Panda review tonight. Uh, we are going to be going way back to 1987.
Or three.
Talk, what's that?
Or 83 when it was made.
I got 87 when I brought it up on
Oh, no,
IMDb.
no. That's when it was released. It was made in 83.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going back to when it was released. If you want to go back to when it was made, be in the birthing room, you'd be right ahead. But 87 release date, excuse me. We're going to talk about Slasher. No, 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 no. We're not going to talk about Slasher. We're going to talk about Nightmare in Shadow Woods. That's what we're going to talk about. No, 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 no. We're going to talk about Blood Rage, which are all the names this thing went underneath. And it didn't get any better under any of the names. Although I don't really get the Shadow Woods one. There are woods in the movie, but I wouldn't say that they're a critical component.
It's the name of the apartment complex.
Oh, okay. Well, still, Shadow Woods. That's okay. All righty. So, as a reminder, we do scoring from 1 to 5 whole number pandas. Some people have been trying to introduce half pandas, much to my dismay. We'll go through a good number of categories and just talk about it. So, this was a recommendation, much like uh, that crazy other one you made me watch. um, but why did you recommend this? Why did you do this?
Are we skipping past the top line reaction on this one?
Well, I want to get the backstory of why he felt this was, I think I'm starting to tip my hand to where my top line reaction is. Um,
Super positive.
okay. So, okay, top line reaction is I didn't like this movie very much. I did not enjoy it.
No.
No, I did not. I didn't hate it. I didn't say I can't, I'm suffering through this and can't watch it. I mean, I made it through, but it was kind of like broccoli. It was just, it's, yeah, I'm not going to spit it out, but I'm not, this is not the next, oh boy, another bite of broccoli. Yum, yum, just, I did enjoy it, but part of it is, um, I think I've established previously, I'm not a Betty White fan. I don't think she's funny. Um, the female lead in this, I will place below Betty White in terms of lack of being funny. And I have, I don't know what it was, but I'm a big Martin Mull fan. And so Fernwood Tonight was a spinoff of Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman played Barth Gimble and then the twin. I can't remember what the twin's name was, but Martin Mull was on there. It's kind of some of his first bigger exposure. And so it's like, wow, Fernwood Tonight. I love Fernwood Tonight. Maybe I should watch Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Couldn't do it. Couldn't make it through there. Most of it had to do with Louise Lasser. Really don't like her. Don't like her at all. Not one little bit. Um, and
Award-winning actress, let me point out.
For what?
She's won a bunch of awards. If
uh,
you peruse her Wikipedia page, she was a celebrated actress.
I got an agent spreading around money there or something because I can't stand her. And in a role where she's a um, romantic lead, if you will, or a sought after, I go, that's impossible. You know,
Once again, I just want to point out I'm not body shaming the way that Kelly
I
is.
I I just it's not the weight, height, whatever. It's I don't know. The configuration's bad. I don't find her attractive. I don't like her. I wanted to like her because she was in a show that generated Fernwood Tonight, so thought I'd give her props there, but couldn't do it. Just wow, don't like her. So that was always nagging at me. And then oh, she's This guy's courting her. It's like, no, stop, don't do it. I think at one point she's got a little bit of a low cut dress on. No, I don't want that. Stop it. Just made me ill. So, so that's my top line reactions. Didn't like it. Didn't hate it. Didn't like it. How about you?
I happen to think Miss Lasser is the standout of this film.
Now that's a low bar, but
Which we'll get to when we discuss the performances of the thespians involved in this production. But so my going back to your initial question, my suggestion that we look at this movie is in part because there's not a lot of Thanksgiving movies. And we wanted to do some more Thanksgiving content this year to go along with our Christmas and Halloween specials that we typically do. We also wanted to start doing Panda reviews of movies. There just isn't a lot of Thanksgiving. There's a couple more in recent years with Eli Roth's movie Thanksgiving. And I don't just mean horror movies, I just mean Thanksgiving movies. And just to give it a qualification, I guess, I don't consider a holiday movie a movie that incidentally has elements of a holiday in it. Like, for example, I wouldn't consider The Godfather a Christmas movie, even though there's like a 15-minute sequence that takes place at Christmas time. That's a 2.5 hour movie that takes place over multiple years. So you see multiple holidays represented. It's not about Christmas. So there are, before anybody, you should write a lot of comments down below, but before your comments are naming every movie that references Thanksgiving in some way, that's not what I mean. A movie that actually, Thanksgiving plays a major role in it. This all takes place around a Thanksgiving dinner. So with Thanksgiving playing a major role in it, there's just not tons of movies. So, and there are others, and I'm sure in future, Thanksgiving specials, we'll get to some of those, but there's not a lot. Halloween and Christmas, we could do episodes forever on that. Thanksgiving, a lot more limited. So this is this is my favorite Thanksgiving movie, I guess. I do watch it pretty much every year. So I wanted to share that with Kelly. Is this going to become a Thanksgiving tradition for you, sir?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would like to point out, folks, you can go back to the beginning of the show, how things have gone so far. So I start off, I ask Mike, why did you select this movie? Mike goes, whoa, wait, hold on. Aren't you going to give me a top line reaction? So I give Mike a top line reaction. I then ask him for his, and he tells me why he recommended the movie. So I don't get it, but okay.
That's that
I mean, you
my
tacked on,
top line reaction is this is my favorite Thanksgiving movie.
right, which you did after you answered the question that I asked first that you chastised me for asking.
Right. Well, it's my turn now.
All right.
I'm a I'm an outlaw, Kelly.
Yeah. You lasser lover, you. Anyway,
That's a t-shirt.
okay, so let's go with 1 to 5 pandas, plot and writing. Um, so I'm gonna give it a 2 for plot and writing. Now, for a slasher movie, that's actually probably pretty good. That's usually not a lot of meat to the bones, no pun intended to that. So, um, but just so many implausibilities and just weird situations and odd conversations, voiceovers that there's like this kind of craziness going on, and then this voiceover comes over that's like a super calm. It's just all very strange there. They towards the end of the movie, they get into this incredibly well lit, I think, high school pool. How did they get into the pool? I don't understand. Why is that the location? So there's lots of things. Also, not unusual for a slasher movie. They mostly want to move. There's also, I'm not familiar with too many high school pools that have the sauna was in that complex, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's an upscale high school, I guess. I don't know, but it was bad. A lot of gaps there. Horrible dialogue. Um, couple. I actually had a couple good quotes. So when we get to that part, there's some good. good quotes there. But so I'm going with a two for plot and acting. Oh, excuse me, for plot writing. I can't wait to get to
So
acting.
you're giving it a two, but you already said it has more going on than the average slasher. There's some
I
good
didn't say
quotes in
more.
there. Yeah,
I
I think you
said
did. I think
like
if we
you
rewind,
expect, like you expect.
there's a little more meat on the bone. That you have some good quotes in there. It just sounds like more than a two to me. It
No,
sounds like
it's a
you're just being
generous two.
down on this.
Very, very generous too.
I'm gonna, you know what? It's easy to point out the flaws of this movie. There are
Yes,
there
very
are
easy.
flaws in this movie. But if you just enjoy it for what it is, which is just craziness, just an hour and a half of craziness, what more could you want out of a movie plot? There's a child, there's an evil twin, a child gets framed for murder.
The
There's
worst frame up
Thanksgiving,
ever.
there's Thanksgiving, there's incest, there's people getting chopped up, there anything you could imagine. I'm gonna go with a three for the plot and writing. What keeps it from being higher for me is so Kelly pointed out something that we'll get to when we get to the acting more in more depth. Um, they had issues with members of the cast just not showing up, people that they hired. So that necessitated crew members taking over certain roles. So they're not the best actors, but to be fair, they're not actors and they weren't supposed to do that. So that doctor character who's doing the voiceover in parts, that's the producer of the movie because the actress just didn't show up on the day and because it's a low budget movie, it had to get shot that day. So that's the producer of the movie. The special effects artist who plays another role of somebody who I assume just didn't show up. So yeah, I mean, I agree that that's bad and the voiceover is bad, but again, they're just trying to fill in plot gaps for cast who just couldn't be bothered to come to work that day. So it is what it is. I ignoring that it gets knocked down to a three because of that stuff for me, but it earns its three. Sure, it's bad, but it's swing for the fences bad, which I really appreciate. I like a movie that just goes crazy, and especially a movie like this where it doesn't have a lot going for it, so they just pull out all the stops. Early in the movie, you get a pre-fame cameo of Ted Raimi as a black market condom salesman dealing condoms in a bathroom. It doesn't get better than that. Uh, you also, to Kelly's point, so I don't think so I'm sure they shot it in a high school or something like that, but the insinuation is that that's part of the apartment complex, that they just have this giant Olympic swimming pool and gym or whatever in there. That's a incredible apartment complex, especially in the 80s.
Yeah,
And
which you
especially
wouldn't guess from all the exterior shots
right from the
or the
exterior shots of
interior.
a relatively small building and smallish apartments once you're in them. Yeah, not giant apartments. You wouldn't expect this. So it's it's like the Doctor Who phone booth kind of thing. That building really sells itself on the amenities.
So, yeah, built by the TARDIS Corporation. So okay. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you didn't do a four because I'd have shut the stream down. I just would have, we've been done. I would not have been able to continue.
Well, it's one
So
to five, so I knocked two off for the non-actors acting, but
that's, yeah.
it
I
goes
mean,
crazy, and I really do appreciate when movies do
well, three is the highest I would have accepted and allow us to continue on. So good for you. All
that.
right. Acting one.
Follow up.
I would say watch the movie and you'll see, but I wouldn't want to force that on anyone. Um, so I didn't have the backstory of it makes sense that these are people who are not actors for most of them. It also has to be, I would say, the worst flossed crew ever. There's some serious teeth issues in this one going on. A lot of gappy teeth, a lot of just not good. And then, maybe whatever she won an award for, she didn't win an award for this movie because she's not particularly compelling either. And she's kind of a linchpin in this. Um, but I mean, there's like one glimmer and it just pops up and then fades away pretty quick at the very tail end in the um, apartment complex swimming pool where the the guy that is trying to be psychotic, failing most of the time to be compellingly psychotic. But he hits a moment or two where he's like, "That's got that." He was doing Disturbed well for just like a fleeting moment. It was there, and I was like, ah, but um, then he wasn't. so so yeah, I they were horrendous, and the only person that could have put on a good performance, I don't feel was some of her best work. I did not, but it's hard because I have this cloud of hate, and this is, probably a bit of a harsh edge on her, but I don't find her compelling or interesting, and that was the case here as well.
So acting is tough on this one for me. So the acting is really bad, but to be honest with you, just as somebody who's a big slasher movie, just horror movie fan in general, but slasher movie fan in particular, a lot of the acting in these 80s slasher movies is, let's say, subpar. So this isn't even the worst that I've seen. And again, some of these aren't even actors. They were crew people that just, we got to shoot this scene. So somebody put on this costume and get in that shot. Doesn't even matter anymore, kind of thing. So I I understand that, but I'm not going to make excuses for that because that's a Scream 3 thing. You know where you're at, Scream 3 fans. For anybody who doesn't understand, Scream 3 is a terrible, terrible movie. And there's people who defend it though because it had an extremely troubled production and essentially they just cobbled a movie together from like random stuff that they shot. And it's impressive when you find out the conditions under that thing was made under that they finished a movie, but that's not an excuse for a bad movie. Like that's the backstory and it's interesting, but the movie is still bad. So it's interesting backstory that some of these people aren't actors but crew members. It doesn't make their acting better though. Like it's still bad acting just because it's an interesting backstory. There's a thing I saw recently. I think it was on Cobweb's channel on YouTube, and they were talking about bad acting in movies, and they said you can accept a certain level of bad acting as long as everybody in the movie's bad. Like if everybody's kind of on the same level as bad, it's actually not as jarring as if you have one or two good actors or better actors and everyone else is terrible around them. That makes it worse. It makes it more difficult to transition back and forth between them. And that makes sense to me. So we're gonna get to the star as far as I'm concerned. And that's not the twins. Although I should probably throw before I get into that, I should throw in I hate it when movies cast an actor the same person as twins. I don't like that. It's never good. The people who are going to be like, but Sinners is probably the best version of that. It's still not good though. It's not convincing. It's not, I don't care how much CGI you can slap on it to make the transitions better. I don't like it. I don't like the, and so many movies have done this over the years. I don't know why. This is like babies on 90s album covers. Like, I don't know why somebody somewhere thought this was a good idea and they just kept doing it. To this movie's credit, I guess, the actor who's not great, who plays both of the twins, at least they do feel like separate personalities that he came up with. Like his performance is bad, but different bad each twin that he's playing. So it does create some separation to the character, as opposed to like one wears sunglasses, which is how those are usually done. Like there's just some superficial trait that's different from one to the other. It does feel like slightly different personalities. And up until the end, they never try to have them in the same shot together. I assume because they understood the limitations of their budget, so they didn't even make that attempt. There is a fight scene in the end where they use body doubles, and it shows they look nothing like the actors playing that character. So just like Sinners, I mean, I guess this is a best case scenario in that it wasn't too egregious and it at least feels like two different characters. But that bar is set super low for me because I hate it when movies do this. The Mom, perfect. Chef's kiss, no notes. This is this is one of those situations where one person outshines the rest of it. Now
It was a great day.
I'm not going to say she outshines them in terms of talent. And again, when I was researching this just for this review, I did not know who she was. Like I knew she's like top billed, so she was the only known star in it, but I never looked her up. I was shocked that she had a lengthy career. Part of the reason I didn't know who she was is and I think we've touched on this before. I'm not a Woody Allen fan. She was married to Woody Allen and starred in like 10 Woody Allen movies. So, not being a Woody Allen fan, I never saw any of those movies. So that's mostly what she's known for. I never saw them, but she's won like Golden Globes and Emmys and stuff like that. So somebody thinks she's a really good actress. So it's actually, I guess, surprising that they landed her for this. She must have really needed the money. It's the only thing I can assume. It's not whatever happened in her life around that time. She needed money. Um, and I guess this plays into what I always thought though, which is she made an absolutely insane choice to play this character and then just rode that out no matter what's happening in the scene, no matter what makes sense for a human being to react in a situation to. She just made the choice to play this character as bonkers as possible. And again, I like big swings. So while it is jarring because she's just, even though nobody else in the movie is going to win an Academy Award, they're kind of doing the same thing. And she's just in a completely different movie that just stars her and no one else. And it almost feels like they just point a camera at her and just let her go. It's so crazy and weird, everything that she does. But I found it super entertaining from start to finish. Is it good? No. But I was riveted every second she's on screen as she's drinking wine and holding a vacuum against her bed or sitting on, on the kitchen floor eating food in a really weird way or talking to a dead body or her weird sexual advances to her son and the ending, which I guess we'll get to at some point in this review. It's such weird choices. And I know, like, obviously the character is crazy on the page, but nobody else is in the movie that she's in. And because of that, I'm going to give it a two. Even though the acting is consistently bad, she gives it two.
Saved the continuation of the show again. Because if you'd have rolled out a three, I'd have shut it down. Shut it
It would
down.
honestly, it would be a zero for everybody else. But again, not necessarily their faults. There's a lot of not actors in this. There's a lady who's trying to find a surrogate father or stepfather for her baby. The guy playing her date who ultimately gets killed is the special effects guy. And this is a super low budget production, so don't expect anything super flashy. But he went on to do Terminator 2 and years after this. So, I mean, like he was a big deal in special effects at some point. But you know what? He's not an actor.
Nope.
And there's a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, and yeah, the her seductive powers were pathetic. So, but yeah, another people. Yeah, so I just want to kind of get this clear. So you were saying if everybody's equally bad, um, that's worse than if nearly everybody's bad, but there's like one good person in there that, or excuse me, it's the other way around. That if there's one good actor and a bunch of bad ones, that's not as good as they should all be bad. So if you were having a meal and all the food was rotten, or most of the food was rotten, but there was like a good, really good steak, you'd prefer the all rotten meal, is what you're telling me.
No, I get your analogy, but there are movies like, so did you ever see the movie Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie?
No.
So there's a great YouTube show called Honest Trailers where they do these parody trailers of movies. The one for Split is absolutely dead on. There's a scene where James, well, this isn't spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't seen it. James McAvoy's character is dancing and he's going around these group of actresses who he shares most scenes with. And the voiceover narrator says, watches James McAvoy literally act circles around the rest of the cast of this movie. They are so wooden and just reading off of cards and things like that, that it's way worse than if all of the acting was just bad. So I agree with what Cobweb's channel said about that. Like that's my go-to example for that. If you watch that movie, James McAvoy is a really good actor, surrounded by people who this was their first credit in something because it was a pretty low budget movie. Shyamalan was on a downswing of his career, so he paid for this himself. So he could only afford James McAvoy, and then I assume theater kids to fill out the rest of it. So that happens a lot in lower budget movies. So in this case, though, it's not that she's acting well. It's that she's just doing something that's so crazy that I think it feels like she's in a totally different movie. There's a movie called Spookies. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It was hated for a really long time, and now it's got kind of a cult following. It is impossible to make any sense of when you watch it. And that's because a producer bought two unfinished movies and just cut them together. They're literally unrelated movies that have nothing to do with each other. And he just cut them together. It was like, whatever. People, people just, be confused. Who cares? That was his. So now it's got kind of a cult following just because of the stupidity of all of that. That's almost what this feels like, but this is one movie that was made this way.
Well, I mean, they had three titles. Maybe this was three movies that were spliced together. Um, so we'll go on to music and score. Uh, it was my first note in as I was watching the movie, and um, when I wasn't, writing, I hate Louise Lasser, but um, well, this is so 80s. I mean, you are hit with an 80s tsunami the moment it starts. The clothes, the music, the just vibe. It is just all 80s. And so the soundtrack works. It it doesn't tend to reinforce spectacular actors' delivery of content, to kind of knit that together, put a nice bow on it, like, Breaking Bad, where they'll have the kind of cues surrounding some incredible performance. And there's none of that here, but that has a lot to do with there weren't any good performances. So so I'll go with three though, because I'm a fair man. And even though I'd want to just bury this movie further, I think for what it is, time frame it's in and all that, I really can't say there's much wrong with it. It's so go three.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is very 80s, and part of this is nostalgia fueled. Like I like 80s movie soundtracks. I not only have the nostalgia for that, having grown up with 80s movies, but that kind of like synth based music obviously really appeals to me as a synthesizer player. So it- part of it is that whole nostalgia thing, even though I didn't see this movie until much later. So I'm gonna go with a three as well. And to something that Kelly said, which I guess we'll talk about with the visuals a little bit more, but it is very authentically 80s. There's an 80s look that a lot of things have now, like Stranger Things and all, that wasn't really the 80s. You can tell this was really the 80s.
There's not a flat collar. Every collar was flipped up. It was all a thing. Yeah. So we will get to the last category is visuals, cinematography, special effects. So all of that kind of stuff rolled into one. Um, Slasher movie. It's gonna be blood. It's not going to be the amount of blood that's going to occur is always going to be surprisingly large. Um, I thought overall, I mean, for particularly for a slasher movie, that wasn't bad. I do think, on the plus side is that it is of its era and it feels of its era. And that's okay. Um, so, this wasn't, while this is a horrific movie, in my opinion, uh, sci-fi, channel back in the day used to put out, really, really bad movies, almost intentionally bad. A lot of them from the Asylum. They did some great stuff. Super enjoyable. I enjoyed those bad movies, and many times their special effects were horrifically bad. But they were like saying, "Well, we want to use CGI, but we can't really afford CGI, at least not good. So we're going to use some free software. Maybe there's a watermark on the CGI. Hard to tell. But it's just when you've got a shark with a Sherman tank on top of it flying through the air. It just didn't look realistic to me. So this had none of that. It did so the blood to wound ratio was a little high, I think sometimes there, but that's a slasher movie. That's what happens. So I'm pretty comfortable giving this a 3 as well.
I again with the nostalgia, this is genuine 80s. The look, like Kelly said, the colors, but also like the color palettes of things. People's clothes being bright colors, but everything in their apartments being like muddy earth tones. Because that's the 80s were really all about wood paneling on walls, brown carpets, wood paneling, things like that. It's not the neon glow in 80s themed things that we see today. If you were really there, it was a lot of wood paneling. So this obviously not a set shot in a real apartment complex because they couldn't afford to build sets making this movie. So it was obviously it was somebody's apartment who actually just lived there. And when you see the name of the apartment complex, it's clearly just like pasted over the real apartment complex sign, things like that. So it's I don't think they had permission to do this if I had to guess. I think somebody lived there and they were just like, you can use my place. And that's how that happened. The special effects are very, cheesy and low budget for the time. But again, this was, even though it came out in the late 80s, it was actually shot in 83 for $0, I would imagine, is the budget. Negative $35 was probably the budget for it. So under that lens, it's impressive how much they were able to pull off when clearly they had nothing to work with here. Crew members and producers are filling in for cast who didn't bother to show up. So they had nothing to work with. So the fact that you do get, people getting chopped up and severed limbs and beheadings and all that kind of stuff, it's impressive that they were able to pull that much stuff off. And again, obviously a launching pad for a special effects artist who went on to work on Terminator 2 eventually. So because that's what while it's not super impressive, it's impressive when he did it with, MacGyver tools like a toothpick and newspaper or whatever. So I'm gonna go with a 3 as well, but it's clouded by nostalgia. I can admit. It, I almost want to give it a 4 just because of the 80s look to it and how much I enjoy that aesthetic. But the framing, like the actual blocking of shots, is pretty bad. A lot of times characters who are talking aren't framed properly. And there's a couple of shots that are out of focus as well. So, and again, obviously I don't think they were doing lots of second and third takes. Like once somebody got through the lines, I think that was a cut on that scene. So it is what it is. I'll go with a 3 for the 80s nostalgia.
You don't think Louise Lasser demanded 47 takes when she was sitting on the floor out of the refrigerator to say, "No, I can do it better. I can get it really right this time." You
What's
don't
my
think
motivation here?
that's right? It's a great question for a lot of this movie. Yeah, you know, low to me, low points at the beginning and the end of this movie overall. Um, and we'll get to that, but first we should probably do quotes. So I did say, I felt that there were opportunities for good quotes here. There were kind of multiple ones. A little bit, you know, that today was a good day or best day ever one that was nice. But um, around the Thanksgiving dinner table, they get a call. Up, your your son's escaped, the one we've had institutionalized for years when he was ridiculously framed by his brother. Um, the response was, "Looks like you'll get to meet the rest of the family. My psychotic brother just escaped." Um, Pass the cranberries, please. So this is it was less traumatic to everybody around the table. Like, oh, let's go talk about that in the kitchen. Um, it was not a thing, but it was a good quote. So I'll go with that one, and I'll give that a 4 because it's a good quote. Again, because I'm a fair man.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that. Mine's going to be a four as well. I'm just going to tell you right up front. And my quote, of course, I think they were trying to make this like a catchphrase for the killer or a tagline for the movie because he says it about six times, which keeps it from being a five for me. It would have been a five otherwise, which is multiple points. He touches blood and says, "It isn't cranberry sauce."
Yeah, that was on my list too.
Yeah. But he does say it like six times, which keeps it the first time I was like, that's amazing. But by the sixth time, it's like, okay, obviously they're trying to make this a thing now and force it on us. So that brings it down a little for me, but it is still a four.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just reliving parts of this movie again, being angry. Guy gets murdered at a desk. Somehow he's still able to sit completely upright.
You
People are
gotta,
like,
this is a movie. Is it a good movie in the traditional sense? No.
no.
But if you enjoy bad movies the way that I do, and you can just take it as entertainment value, and especially something where it's not a crowded field of Thanksgiving themed movies. I think it's a good time.
I don't know. I think because I enjoy bad movies too, but they make me smile as part of whether it was just I didn't smile for doing this at all. Zero. Um, uh, that was it. So I don't know. There's just something that took any piece of joy I could get out of me, and and from there. But I believe that actually ends up with I can't believe, given our starkly different opinions of this movie, we're only two pandas apart. You know, I'm at 13, and you're at 15. It is out of a possible 20. So my 13 feels a little better then. That feels good. And your 15 feels a little wrong then because it's like three quarters towards a perfect score. So that I can reconcile it that way. That's the two panda difference was bugging me, but that's where we go. So, Mike recommends you see this movie. Maybe make it part of your Halloween tradition. Um, I'm gonna say listen to Mike if you want to, and leave it at
Again, it's
that.
to plead my case. It's a bad movie. I
Yes,
acknowledge that, but
agree
I
100%.
think it's a fun bad movie.
I disagree with the second part. I had no fun. But again, I think Luis Lasser is to blame largely, but not really because it was everybody. Everybody annoyed me in this whole thing. Um, but we'll see how it goes. But I don't know. Maybe you should check it out, folks. See what you think. Correct me if I'm wrong, or more likely, help me educate Mike. Break him of this tradition that I think will ruin relationships and things down the road because it's just wrong. But you know, I'm willing to listen. So let us know in the comments. Appreciate if you'd subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel before you leave that comment. Maybe rewatch this again to kind of see how Mike told me to ask one question, didn't answer that question. That whole thing at the beginning, folks, if you remember that. Um, so maybe there's a head injury or something. Maybe that's what went on, why he was a little more complimentary than he should have been on here. But subscribe. You'll get a chance to listen to Hard No. It's the world's shortest podcast. Every episode less than a minute. Over 1,000 episodes. Well over 1,000 at this point in time. If you're in the market for free, royalty-free ROMs, there we have those too. Bog Panda Vision. We've got Game Boy games of the Slapdash variety, a Slapdash adjacent NES game, uh, Doom levels with a new update coming out very, very soon. I don't know if it'll beat this video in terms of getting out, but it's going to be close. They can put the final touches on it. So there's lots of stuff out there. Check Bog Panda Vision out on our site. And then there's some merchandise as well. And I appreciate you guys taking a look at all the many t-shirts that we have offering up for you to consider. Best way to listen to the show is wearing a Bog Panda t-shirt. You really need to listen to it twice because there's, layers within layers, as you've seen from this spirited, erudite discussion this evening. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up, sir?
I hope everybody watching this adds blood rage to their Thanksgiving festivities.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.